Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to another Wild Rift video, and in today's video I'll be playing Khazix in the jungle. But let me tell you, there is one new item that is incredibly powerful on Khazix, which is the Cerealist Grudge. So in the beginning part of the video I'm gonna explain to you how to build Khazix. You can find timestamps in the description to skip to the gameplay immediately. So let's now talk about how to build Khazix, and let me just tell you, the first item, Duskblade of Traktar. Always Duskblade of Traktar. See, I see some people start with a Mortal Reminder or a Cerealist Grudge even. It's just not worth it. So let me tell you, the Duskblade of Traktar gives you that 15 flat armor penetration, it gives you 55 attack damage and the 10 ability haste. But all you're really doing it for is the 55 attack damage, the 15 armor penetration, and the passive, the Night Stalker passive. This is absolutely huge, guys, because it works with your ultimate as well. It's such a powerful ability. Just the sheer amount of burst damage that you're gonna have with the Duskblade of Traktar is insane. Now you can get this item before the first dragon as well. It's 3000 gold, so it's not the most expensive item. It's just literally the perfect first item on what is the champion called? Khazix. So let me tell you, you need to start with this, the Serrated Dirk. Always start with the Serrated Dirk because this one gives you the 10 flat armor penetration. The earlier you get this, the more effective it's gonna be. So okay, after you finish the Duskblade of Traktar, make sure you buy boots. By the way, tier 1 boots. And now here it changes a little bit. So is the enemy squishy? Then what I recommend you to do is wait, where is the Serrated Dirk? What I recommend you to do is buy a Serrated Dirk second, and then buy the Cerealist Grudge. You know, this is exactly what your build is gonna look like if the enemy is squishy. So you get a Duskblade of Traktar, Serrated Dirk, and then if you feel like you need a slow, right? Like if you feel like you're gonna have a hard time catching up to an enemy, then you build the Cerealist Grudge. If you just want burst damage, then build it into a Yumo's Ghostblade, because Yumo's Ghostblade, if you can stay onto the enemy, if the enemy doesn't have big escape abilities, then Yumo's Ghostblade is gonna be better. Otherwise, get the Cerealist Grudge, because every time you use your first ability, you're gonna be slowing the enemy by 30%, right? And your second ability as well, your jump, right? Your jump, when you jump on multiple enemies, they're all gonna get slowed. That's why this is like the perfect item on Khazix. See, there, like, it's all good. I can't tell you what's the best. It's really situational. And if you're against a super tanky composition, you go for the Duskblade of Traktar and then the Cerealist Grudge. After that, I still like to go for the Yumo's Ghostblade just because it's just so powerful, guys. If the enemy has a lot of ability power, actually, you can also get the Maw of Marmortius. But let me tell you about the third item. So if you feel like you're not going to be utilizing the flat armor penetration and the Yumo's Ghostblade passive because the enemy is super tanky and like you just want to be more of a supporting jungle for your team, believe it or not, you could also get a Death Stance on Khazix. Only go for this one if your team has enough damage and you really feel like you picked him in the wrong draft. Like if you picked him in the wrong draft and like the enemy is really demolishing you, build a Death Stance instead, because that's gonna allow you to tank up some damage and, you know, buy some time for your team. As my fourth item, I actually always go for Guardian Angel. It's just really good in the late game. It's a perfect item. And as my fifth item, Starrock's Cage. This is just so amazing in the very late game, right? The lifeline passive that it gives you is so powerful. It's just really good. Okay, so, oh yeah, about the boots, by the way, I really like Ionian Boots of Lucidity, so you can actually spam your abilities. And for your enchantments, you can either go for Protobelt. Protobelt is good if you want to catch up to an enemy. You can go for QSS if they have big stunts, like a Twisted Faith, for example, or an Annie. But you can also go for Stasis Enchant if you're against a Fizz, something like that, right? Okay, so now talk about the roots. I go for Electrocute. Now, I do see some people go for Conqueror, and so sometimes I go for Conqueror, only if I'm against a bit more of a tanky composition. But see, the thing with Electrocute is, obviously it electrocutes the enemy. It deals a lot of burst damage. The whole point of Electrocute is to deal burst damage. So when you dive on a squishy target, especially in the late game, guys, especially in the late game, you're going to be dealing a lot of burst damage with the Electrocute. And as I said, especially in the late game, because it skills with 40% of your attack damage. And if you look at the items, 55 attack damage, 40 attack damage, 50 attack damage, 40 attack. You get my point, right? You get a lot of attack damage when you go for this build. So that's why Electrocute is just very powerful. For my second item, Brutal. You always want to go for Brutal on jungle camps because Brutal is going to give you a lot of bonus damage in the early game to clear out the jungle, right? Like never go for Gathering Storm or anything like that on jungle. Never. Always go for Brutal. For my third item, I go for Hunter Titan because I don't want to get stunned down in the late game as a Kha'Zix, and it's really worth it on Kha'Zix, guys. And the fourth rune, Mastermind, because Kha'Zix is already super fast at taking dragons and barons. Mastermind is gonna make that even faster. It allows you to like sneak dragons in like 10 seconds or something alone, and when you're with your team you do it in like 5 seconds. So for your spouse, of course, Flash and Smite. So enough about this, let's get into the gameplay. And so today's gameplay is going to be very interesting. I made a lot of mistakes in this game, especially in the early game, and that's why I chose this game to make a video of. Kha'Zix is not easy to play. Let me tell you guys this. Kha'Zix is definitely not easy to play, and he's a very unique champion. Like he really has a very unique playstyle. I would almost say that it's close to Master Yi's playstyle. Close, but like still very far apart. But let me tell you in what sense it's close. Kha'Zix is not an initiator. Like you don't want to be initiating on your own. But the point of Kha'Zix is when your team is already fighting the enemy and some of the enemies are low, you can pick those low targets off, just like Master Yi, right? Like where you go in with Master Yi and reset your abilities because his cooldowns get reduced when you get kills. But Kha'Zix makes the cooldown of his third ability 0 when you've upgraded it. So when you reach level 9, that's when the real Kha'Zix comes online. But that doesn't mean that early game Kha'Zix is weak. In contrary to that, early game Kha'Zix is incredibly powerful, and you really want to be utilizing the early game power spikes as well. Now what I like to do is I do a full clear on Kha'Zix, and I only do this if I'm like 90% sure that the enemy jungler also started at the red buff. If that's the case, then he's gonna be at the bottom scuttle and I'm gonna be at the top scuttle. So take a look at what I just did here. I upgraded my first ability again instead of upgrading my third ability. The reason for that is because I'm gonna be level 4 anyways, but if I upgrade my first ability, I'm gonna be able to clear the blue buff like 1 or 2 seconds faster, which, you know, it's still 2 seconds. So that's why I did it. So as you can see here, boom, now I'm level 4. And instead of doing a full clear here, actually, I saw that the enemies were a bit low. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take the scuttle, and if I feel like they need a gank, I'm gonna gank. But they're so low, and I got a sweeper, by the way. And what the sweeper does, it allows you to just roam around the map without the enemy seeing you. So let's take a look what's gonna happen here. Boom and boom. I was tanking the turret and we just got 2 kills just like that. It was a beautiful gank. That was a really good gank by me. So that was worth skipping my farm for. That was definitely worth skipping my farm for, even though the Galio got the counter kill. But you can see here, like as I said, normally I would do a full clear, but obviously you want to pay attention to the map. When you're on the blue side, pay attention to the top lane and the mid lane, and take a look. Okay, can I gank the top lane or can I gank the mid lane? If you're pretty sure that you can get a kill, then skip the big brown fat guy and gank. If you're like not sure you can get a kill, just take the big fat brown guy, then take the scuttle, and when you take the scuttle plus a full clear, you'll be level 5. You'll be level 5 at like minute 2. So, you know, keep that in mind. That's basically what happens then. You're gonna have a really fast level 5. So let me tell you guys another thing. It's a very big power of Kha'Zix, because I always tell you guys, play your champion to his powers and not to his weaknesses. So let's talk about the powers and weaknesses of Kha'Zix. So like one of his biggest powers is fast jungle clear. And this is not only good when you're clearing your own jungle, but also when you're invading the enemy jungle, guys. And let me give you a few scenarios. So for example, you've killed all of the enemies, right? Like all of the enemies died and you're in the middle of their jungle. No, not all of them. Like let's say you only killed their jungler. Instead of just running away, you can just sneak the blue buff, for example, or the big fat brown guy. Just take it, because you take it so fast, especially when we approach the mid game. You can quite literally take a whole blue buff in like 2.5–3 seconds. It's actually that crazy with your smite and your first ability and things like that. So keep that in mind. No, look at this, look at this. I was so unlucky, and the Graves didn't follow up. The Graves was just farming while he had his ultimate. and flash. Yeah, and ignite. I mean, that was literally a free kill. That was literally a free kill. But perhaps I should have pinged it. I just kind of thought that he would follow up because I was ganking his lane, right? But it's okay. Here I was just, you know, just telling him that what he could have possibly done. Nothing too toxic. Just like, you know, Graves, you could have helped me a little bit there. You know, you could have helped me a little bit. Oh, they're going for the dragon. What's gonna happen? Oh, I stole it. Nice. That's great. I stole the dragon. Woohoo. Just smite difference, huh? Yeah, so about smiting dragons and barons, this really all comes down to whoever can deal the most damage and then smite as well. Here I just failed. Let's not talk about what happened here. Like, this was just... I dived a Galio. And Galio is also a pretty annoying champion to deal with when you're playing Khazix, because when you dive him, he can easily charm you. No, taunt you. Yeah, he can easily taunt you with the second ability. So you don't want to be playing against those champions that can just CC you like that, right? What was I talking about? Yeah, dragons. So Khazix and dragons, he's really good at securing dragons with his first ability. Basically, you do first ability and then smite, especially when the dragon is isolated. If the dragon is isolated, you should be able to always secure it, always, if it's isolated. And let me tell you another thing. When there is a dragon and an enemy, and only one enemy around the dragon is still isolated, guys. So one enemy doesn't actually take away isolation from the dragon. Take a look at this. See that? The Irelia was right next to the Rift Herald, and she doesn't take away the isolation from it. So what does that mean? If the enemy jungler is taking the dragon alone, you can easily steal it. Easily. All you gotta do is jump on a dragon, hit your first ability, and smite. You can smite dragons from like almost 1500 HP. And no one can outsmite you. No one. Literally no one can outsmite you in a situation like that. But keep in mind, if there is 2 or more enemies around the dragon, you're not gonna be able to deal that much damage anymore, because it's not gonna be isolated. So keep that in mind, okay? What's gonna happen here? Ooh, yeah, they got the Rift Herald. Oh, my team stole the Rift Herald. Never mind, that's good. And let's take a look at this fight here, okay? So what am I doing? You may think, man, they're all low. Why are you not going in? And let's first take a look at the fight. And I'm gonna ask you guys to test your knowledge. Why did I not just jump in there? They were all low. They were all low. Like, any champion could jump in there and get kills, right? Olaf, Lee Sin, I don't know. Any champion could jump in there and like at least get a kill or 2. Why did I not just jump in there and kill all of them? Test your knowledge. So take a look at the scenario of that fight. And why did I not jump in there? It's a pretty easy one today, but I still want you to test your knowledge on this, because I'm going to elaborate on it after you've put down a comment, if you want, of course. And yeah, I'm doing a skin giveaway as well, blah blah blah. 15 skins this month. All you gotta do to enter is put down a comment under this video, and also on my Instagram, giving away 5 on my Instagram. So yeah, I'm a bit more active on Instagram as well now, you know, posting my real life stuff if you're interested in it. But yeah, let me tell you now, if you're still putting down the comment, put the video on pause right now. So I didn't jump in because no one was isolated. This is the whole point of Khazix, guys. The isolation is literally the whole point of Khazix. It's crazy how big of a point it is, because the first ability, when he does that, it deals 110% bonus damage when the enemy is isolated, and it refunds a lot of the cooldown. So basically, if the enemy is not isolated, it's useless. It's not useless, but it's pretty useless, right? It's pretty useless. And in that fight, even though they were all really low, if I had just jumped in there, they would have all focused me and killed me. Like, you literally do 0 damage if the enemy is not isolated. And I said that I would elaborate on this. So in the late game, you really want to play Khazix as a Kha'zix and not as any other champion. And the way that you do that is, you do not actually fight with your team. Like, you do not initiate a fight with your team. What you do instead is, in like 80% of the cases, I would say that you should let your team engage. Let them deal damage. They will take damage too, of course, but let them take damage, the enemies. And then what you need to do is just look for a vulnerable enemy. Look for an enemy that is like at least at low percent HP and isolated. If the enemy is at low HP and isolated, you go in. You can jump on him, use your ultimate to escape, use your first ability to do massive damage. Basically isolated enemies. And you can obviously see that with the purple thing around them, but that's all you have to do. Isolated enemies. If the enemy is not isolated, you do not fight. Because you're not gonna do any damage. Even if you're super ahead, you're actually gonna be dealing 0 damage. So that is actually a major weakness to Khazix. Khazix is pretty overpowered right now, but this big weakness can really kill your Khazix game. And the weakness is if you engage if the enemy is not isolated. Now if you're playing against good enemies, they'll know that they're against the Khazix and they will know that they kind of have to stick together, right? Like they'll stick together and they won't be isolated, which removes a lot of your damage. But you still gotta wait for the perfect moment. Don't just go in the team fight because you don't want to get flamed by your team. No. Look, and you have to decide, okay, now there is an isolated enemy that is very low, or if there is an isolated enemy that you can one-shot. That's another example, right? Like the enemy doesn't have to be low. If for example the enemy Vayne is isolated, I can pretty much one-shot her in the late game. So that I could also go on her, of course. Yeah, here, you know, you can see my team is fighting and now, like, all of them are isolated. Look at how much damage I'm gonna do when the enemy is isolated. Jesus, what is it? What? Just demolished me. Damn. Yeah, Gragas is a pretty big counter to Khazix because all of his abilities work against Khazix. Jesus, did you see his damage though? Pooh. That's crazy. This is definitely not the best draft to pick Khazix, by the way, because I'm against a Gragas, I'm against a Galio. You know, it's not the best draft. But damn, the damage! Stupid Gragas. I should probably make a full AP Gragas video again. I made a tank and AP Gragas video lately. Maybe I should make a full AP Gragas video as well. By the way, I'm Grandmaster right now. You know, I went from I went from Emerald 1 to Grandmaster rank in like 3 days. I won almost, like, I won so many games. I won so many games these days, which literally ranked me up all the way from Diamond 4, Emerald 1 to Grandmaster right now. Just pretty nice, you know, trying to get to Challenger again while literally playing pretty much every single champion in the game right now. I played a Master Yi game. I played my first Master Yi game in ranked, by the way, and it didn't go too well. We lost. But yeah, here. I went on the isolated Gragas. I dealt 50% of its HP and I disengaged. So let's take a look at what's gonna happen in this fight. Okay, so we see Kaisa on the top side. I am thinking by myself, okay, you know, I need to kind of let my team fight and only engage when there's isolation. So my team engages here. Here, look. My team is fighting. One of my teammates even died, and now I go in. And I isolate the enemies, I isolate the Vayne as well, and I just get an easy triple kill. This is literally exactly what I explained. This is how you fight on Khazix, and I want you to rewind and kind of analyze the fight. Analyze what I did there. Analyze how I was actually able to just get an easy triple killer and do a lot of damage. I let my team engage. Like, my Lulu even died, right? My Lulu even died, but it's okay, because some of the enemies were low, and I caught one enemy that was isolated, and boom, I got a kill. And after you get that kill, you will reset your threat ability, so you can either escape or continue the fight. You can do both of them. So if you can just get a kill when dashing in, it's gonna be worth it. Take a look at how fast I take the dragon, by the way. Wow, crazy. And if you don't have a smite, by the way, you can just smite with your first ability anyways. It deals like it deals basically the same amount of damage as smite. It's pretty crazy. I went back here because I have to get an item. Yeah, I had Mortal Reminder in my build here, but I obviously skipped the Mortal Reminder because we're in the new update with the Cerulda's Grudge, so I definitely built the Cerulda's Grudge. And here I was like, guys, why the hell do you fight with Baron? 3 of my teammates just died for no reason. Like, when you get Baron, guys, you generally don't want to fight because you're at a disadvantage. Because if you trade 2 for 2, for example, with the enemy, it's not worth it because you have Baron. You want to be applying pressure with the Baron. Don't fight. Like now we only have 2 people with the Baron buff, which is obviously way worse than having 5 people with the Baron buff. They just fought for no reason at all. Actually, so stupid, so annoying. Why did they do that? Oh, by the way, when I'm level 13, I actually almost always take my upgraded second ability. I just really like the big damage and the slow that it provides, and also the cooldown is pretty low because you're already in the very late game, and you have items with cooldown reduction. So I'm not saying evolving your ultimate is bad. I'm not saying that. It's actually pretty good, especially in team fights. But I just prefer the second ability because the damage and the slow is just really, really good. It's really powerful in team fights. Like you can just hit 3 enemies, boom, just like that. It's just really, really good. Oh, one of my teammates just died. I'm just looking for isolated enemies, honestly. I'm just trying to look for someone vulnerable. I see Galio. Look, I see the Galio. I kill the Galio. I go out, of course. I got the Galio, and as I said, you can just disengage with your third ability. I was waiting for my third ability here, and I ended up still having to flash. So he's low, but can I kill him? I still have my ultimate. I'm waiting for him to push the wave. So he becomes isolated. As I said, you don't want to fight if the enemy is not isolated. Always wait for isolation. I use my ultimate and boom. Easiest kill of my life. Easiest kill of my life. You have to wait in a situation like that. Because if I didn't wait, what he would have done is he would have just he could just stick to his wave and I will never kill him. You know, it's crucial to wait in a situation like that. Don't just go in and think, no, Gragas is low, I can kill him easy, I'm Khazix, I have so much damage. No, you don't have damage. You only have damage if the enemy is isolated, guys. Please, this is such an important thing to understand. Isolation is absolute key. It's the absolute key. If the enemy is not isolated, you don't take the fight. You just don't take the fight, even if you're super ahead, because you're just not gonna do any damage. Oh, I've said it so many times. I really hope I put it in your heads enough now. Isolation is key. So a team fight is gonna happen very soon, obviously. The Baron is here, and damn, the Galio damage though, pretty big. So obviously Khazix is really fast at taking objectives. Oh, here I caught him out. Just look at the damage. Look at the damage. Isolated, by the way. Isolated, by the way. Isolation plus the Dusk Blade plus my passive. That's the amount of damage you can do. That's what it does, guys. Boom. Just like that. It all started with the Galio. So Khazix is obviously really good at catching out an enemy like that, especially with the Cyril's Grudge now, with the new, with the new item, because when you hit the enemy with your first ability, not only are you going to be dealing a lot of damage, you're also going to be slowing down for 30% for 1 second. And here, I'm just taking the Elder Dragon. But take a look at this. Look at how fast I'm taking it. This is what Khazix can do. He takes dragons like no one can. He's literally the fastest dragon taker in the game. There is no one faster than him. Take a look at this. Boom. And I just got the Elder Dragon. Just like it's nothing. As if it's not like the game-ending dragon, I just took it. Easy. Just use Proto Buff because I want to farm. Are you guys seeing how fast I'm farming, by the way? Are you guys seeing how fast I'm taking jungle? So at this point, I have my fourth item, and when I'm in the enemy jungle, boom, I just take their jungle. It's gonna take like literally 1.5 seconds to take the jungle, maybe 2 seconds. So always take jungles like that when you're running through the enemy jungle with Kha'zix. And what I mean with take jungles is take the single jungles. The big fat brown guy, the red buff and the blue buff. The other jungles are not gonna be as fast to take because obviously they're not isolated. And as I said, isolation is key. Here, isolation is key. I catch an isolated Gragas as well. Look, they're all isolated. That's what I'm doing. Isolated Galio, boom. Isolated Leona, boom. I mean, it's very simple, guys. And now yet again, we've become legendary. Man, we're getting the legendary quite often these days, huh? Used to be pretty special. Now almost every video, actually getting it pretty nice. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, because yeah, this is game over, of course. I was 0-3 in this game and now I'm 10-4. So I really hope I taught you a lot about Khazix. I do have more Khazix videos on my channel if you want to check it out, you know, where I teach you the more basic fundamentals, and you can watch a very entertaining game as well. But yeah, let's take a look at how much damage I did and everything else like that. Oh, I was Emerald 2 there. What? That was literally a few days ago. I'm literally Grandmaster right now. Grandmaster. Damn. Well, I guess I ranked up pretty fast. Emerald 2, what? Oh, well, was that it? Did I not show the damage graph? I think I did. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.